Former CEO of the Walt Disney Company, Michael Eisner, is not pushing back against claims he might be the most influential and consequential CEO other than Walt himself, but that's not all. Michael Eisner also declaring he doesn't like what's happening with the parks. They're too expensive, and people don't feel like VIPs anymore. Can Josh D'Amaro change what's happening at the House of Mouse? Or will Eisner reign as the greatest since Walt forevermore? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the happiest YouTube channel that ever set sail across the interwebs. As we get ready to do what we do so well, which is to break news and explain entertainment, keep you ahead of the culture curve. All we ask in return is that you click the like button, drop a comment down below, and if you're not yet subscribed, we're working hard to earn it from you. All right, out of Pixie Dust DLP, Michael Eisner says, quote, "I'm not wild of the fact that it's so expensive now to go to Disneyland or Disney World. I'm not wild of the fact that it's harder to have everybody as a VIP at the parks because they're selling things." And this is from In-Depth Graham Bensinger. We'll get it later. Folks, let's go to the clip right now, and I'm going to play this a little bit by ear. I've got it memorized, but I'm missing some of my notes that remind me exactly where to go. I think I can do it. Let's play through it. And we're going to play just snippets and clippets, folks. We'll go through it. Here we go.
When you became CEO of the Walt Disney Company, stock price was $1.24, and it was $23.80 when you left 21 years later. So you can make the strong argument that outside of Walt himself, no single person had a more consequential impact on the company than you. But how do you look back on those last couple of years, that last period now?
Now, Eisner's going to weigh in on some difficult stuff, as Jonas has said, but he's also not going to push back against the statement that he's the most consequential CEO other than Walt. So I'll give you a chance to see that he doesn't push back on that.
Well, there was change going on. I was stubborn. I did not want to buy Pixar for a price that I thought was crazy. It wasn't as depressing as the media made it. We were still doing very well. We were still a great company. I had decided that we couldn't lose any more money with Roy Disney making movies.
All right, so there's where we come to the stop, but he doesn't push back against the idea that he's the most consequential CEO other than Walt. By the way, folks, if we go to the stock right now and we look at the 5-year, under Bob Iger, after they ousted Bob Chapek, the former CEO, now we're handing it off to Josh D'Amaro, but Disney is down 45.63% over the past 5 years. It's getting harder and harder to look at Disney and not think, yeah, if you look at consequential CEOs, it is Walt and then Eisner. Christian, I don't think that Bob Iger appreciates this. Eisner coming out of relative obscurity right now and taking a zinger and definitely not softening the blow to Iger. What do you make of this idea that people are looking back at the Eisner era now with very rose-tinted glasses and maybe apropos?
Yeah, I mean, the unforced errors we've seen in the modern era, I don't think that Eisner would have done that to this capacity. So yeah, I understand. He's in a way taking a victory lap and not pushing back, as you said, on the consequential remarks. So listen, he came from a different era. He was old school, and certainly he wasn't perfect, and there were flaws in the animation division. Certainly hit some speed bumps along the way, but it sounds like he probably wanted what was best for the company and didn't factor ideology in. I mean, that's just my kind of first blush thought about all of this. But yeah, you can't argue with success, and the numbers don't lie.
And Jonas at the same time, too, he's not pulling punches against Roy E. Disney, which is not going to make some classic Disney fans happy. So he's he's laying it out there.
Yeah, I would say Bob Iger's insults to Roy Disney were much more personal than the ones.
Describe, please.
Bob Iger might have implied that Roy was a bit of a drunk in his book in defense of Eisner.
Yeah, that's true.
Not classy.
And okay, so Iger has been, they say behind the scenes, he's very prickly about Eisner. But in his book, he defended him a little bit. So what do you think is going on here, Jonas? I don't get the feeling that Eisner shares love towards Iger.
I think Eisner is a very professional person, and that he made some bold stances. He was willing to be unpopular, which is something that the Disney company sorely needs, and you're probably not going to get that from Josh tomorrow going forward. Eisner was willing to make decisions that people didn't like. He was willing to bring on people like Katzenberg and Weinstein, and those are not necessarily unblemished moves that he made here. But Iger, on the other hand, needs everything to come through the lens of corporate acceptance that this is the pathway forward. It's Disney nice as a fault has been something that even Nelson Peltz has brought up against Bob Iger. Eisner did a really good job of taking that company from something that was not profitable into something that was profitable, while maintaining the sanctity of the Disney brand itself, and in some ways elevating the Disney brand. There were films under the Disney catalog, Disney animation specifically, that were not so great. And he did a lot of things that right now Disney is pulling back to say, don't you remember what that was like? The King Cities merger, the largest media merger of the time with ABC and ESPN, and he wanted ESPN at that company. So we can't say that Bob Iger is completely the reason why ESPN is being forced in there. This is a man who actually was careful about what he did for the best interests of the company and stumbled a little bit at the end by making unpopular moves. I think that Bob Chapek ended up making all unpopular moves.
Wow.
I do miss Eisner as far as this goes, but I think his indications from this interview are not, oh, shucks, I'd love to come back there. I don't need this in my life.
But to clarify that, though, Chapek made decisions that were internally unpopular with the Bob Iger folks who were still there. For consumers, it seems to me that Chapek was moving in the right direction, maybe.
But at the same time, Bob Iger just said from 2005 to now, they have fixed the parks division to where it is a major profit-leading center of the company. So Bob Chapek did what Bob Iger told him to do as far as the parks go.
Sure.
And so the things that later on in this video that Eisner complains about or says that he would do it differently, which is the nice CEO way of saying that was a bad idea. Those are specifically parks division issues. And killing the parks division, fully monetizing the parks division is something that kills the parks for a lot of America.
Okay, perfect segue. Let's go now to what Eisner has to say about that, which is going to be, by the way, felt, I believe, as an attack on the incoming CEO, Josh D'Amaro, who's been over the parks and who has monetized them, and I think reigned over the worst phase of the park we've ever seen. So here is Eisner on that.
One person's running it for that long. It's time for a change.
I think change is good in management because it also creates opportunity to go in new directions. You can't just stay in the old directions. I'm not wild about the fact that it is so expensive now to go to Disneyland or Walt Disney World. I'm not wild about the fact that it's harder than ever to have everybody be a VIP at a Disney park because they're selling certain things. The things that I would do differently, but I don't think I would run it as well as Bob has run it.
An interview with Mike Ovitz, literally.
All right, let's hold there. Ron, it's a give and take there. You go to the parks all the time. Eisner is saying super expensive, not the way I would do it. But then he concedes maybe Bob's doing better. And that might be because he's looking at that from a business standpoint. And I don't know, it feels to me as if Eisner is saying, you know what, I'm the kind of guy who thinks there's a value proposition in giving people that VIP experience regardless of their financial input. Bob disagrees, but Bob's probably better, from a Wall Street standpoint. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. What do you think, Ron?
It's I don't know. This is a difficult thing to read. You go to the parks as a local, and we've talked about it before, the differentiation between how much you have to spend or how little you have to spend as a local versus how much you have to spend to get there from anywhere else. If you're coming to Walt Disney World on a vacation, it's going to cost you a lot of money. When you look at, and I think they even have some sold out days of Premier Lightning Lanes, where the Lightning Lane, the Premier Lightning Lane, in addition to your park ticket, is $450 per person, which means you're paying roughly $650 per person for that day so that you're guaranteed to get into the park and get on all the attractions you want to. Now, I will say, if I were in the position of doing that, I'm going to make sure that I get there at rope drop and don't leave until the fireworks are long since done, and make sure I've gotten my
Let me just say this, Ron. If you're spending $400 something for Lightning Lane, I can tell you how to ride all those rides without spending $400. So either you have so much money that this is, change in the sofa, or you don't deserve to have this money, because this is insanity. But Disney's getting away with it because that's what they're charging the global elites when they fly in for their once a generation experience.
Well, and that's the thing that you have. So these are the different types of people you have at Disney now. You have a lot of adults that are going without kids, a lot of dinks, a lot of dual income, no kids, families that are going to the bar experiences, going to their GO82s, going to their Beacon Barrels, making sure that they get their drinks in, their everything. They're very adult experience. You have people constantly, I see it in chats all the time online, complaining about strollers being in their way, complaining about kids misbehaving when they're just like behaving in the parks. I can't believe these people can't control their kids. I'm like, you're in a family park. That's going to happen. It's the crowd has changed. And what I feel like the bottom line is Michael Eisner probably cared a lot about the experience that families who saved up their whole life, went to Disney parks, the experience that they had in the parks. Bob Iger, Josh D'Amaro, they care about the bottom line, which is actually hurting the bottom line. And what I mean by that is, like, when you look, like I'm looking right now, the company's value under Eisner grew from roughly $3 billion when he took over to $70 billion when he left. This is Michael Eisner. I don't know about Bob Iger's time, but when you look at the stock over the last 10 years, it's flat. It did, went up, went down. It's basically flat over 10 years. And it just means that I don't know that the value proposition for guests has been added, because there's a strange differentiation in the parks between those people that come on vacation and they have money, they're spending a lot. And then there's local Floridians who, only have to pay $26 a month and can go to the parks, 20 days a month, get free parking, and that's great if you live here and you're local, but it doesn't work out great if you're trying to bring a family of 4. If they come here for a week, I don't think that they're going to get away with spending any less than at least $10,000 for a typical Disney vacation, probably closer to 15 or 20,000. And that's way more than what it used to be.
Yeah, look, I totally agree with you there, and the discount rate for Disney is starting to become something of like the blood-sucking lawyer, Mr. Gennaro in Jurassic Park. Fine, we'll have a coupon day, so they can still maintain this semblance here. And as they've taken more and more perks away from the annual pass holders, to where you have something like, what is it? Is it the Pixie Pass? The one where you can only go during the weekdays, and you still have the limitation of, well, you have to reserve days, and you can only reserve that next day until you've actually already been in the park, and that will only be opened up after you've been there, and there'll be consequences if you don't show up, all of that stuff. Nat, with Eisner having been so quiet in Hollywood for so long, and for him to be the closest thing to a comparison to Bob Iger at this point, why do you think he's coming out now, and what is the difference that you see in Iger and Eisner, if I can ask you that question?
I mean, because because Eisner is leaving. Like, the king is at least announced he is leaving. So now I guess he feels he can kind of come out and say things. And at least from my perspective, from someone that, I haven't gone to the parks. I went when I was little, but I live in Mexico. It's pretty far away. I always found that the era of Eisner, and a lot of people might disagree with me, was at least a lot more innovation, still focused a little bit, at least in the education part, for example, as well as entertainment and movies wise as well. And it went a bit better back then. But it is very noticeable that the shift the company has taken is geared towards adults. And we're also seeing that globally, there's going to be more adults than children in a bit. So is that actually smart of them, as much as we might not like it? I don't like it, but I'm saying maybe they're noticing that there's just not that many kids to fill the parks with. This was the first generation of this past year in the US that graduated with less people within the generation that graduated high school than ever in a long time. So that's crazy.
That's an interesting point. In the UK, Disney was just censured by the Advertising Standards Board because of Predator Badlands. One of the advertisements for it has a character who is severed in half. I think it's Dakota Fanning. I think that's the younger one. Elle. I always get the two mixed up. Elle Fanning severed in half. She's a synth robot, I guess. So they felt like that was fine. But the Advertising Standards Board said that's a no-go there. But with everything under the Disney brand now, there was a movie that starred Amy Adams that had a word I won't say as part of the title. It was a night dog. Let's say that. But when Bob Iger was trying to prove to the world that the Disney company is important and the Fox purchase was important, he said, look at all these Disney films that are coming out. I can't even imagine Walt Disney himself reading the list of films under the Disney brand that he worked so hard to cultivate, seeing Night Wench on that list. Wench is not the right word, but it's close enough here. But the thing that gets Disney in trouble at this point is the advertising standards in the UK on Predator Badlands, as opposed to, of course, all the things that we've seen that are a travesty and now the medical associations are saying no to. That's the problem here with this brand. Eisner stayed away from that. The fact that he had someone like Harvey Weinstein working with the Disney company at the time and eventually tried to exit him out of the company quietly, I would say, because of the difference in the information landscape at the time. I think this is a fascinating shift from what Eisner was okay with to what Iger thinks is the pinnacle of that company, which is consolidating power under the brand is the important thing, as opposed to the brand itself.
That's very well said. And we'll be watching to see what Josh D'Amaro does. The criticisms when it comes to it being too expensive and not everybody feeling like a VIP, that was part of Disney's fabric. That was their their entire being of the company was everybody who goes to the parks feels like a VIP. Mm-hmm. And frankly, I think it was embedded into more than that. You watch a movie, it's made for you. You're supposed to feel like Disney, the company, really cares about you, and they really care about their employees, and all that's sort of been lost. Whether or not Josh D'Amaro can get that back has yet to be seen. Final thoughts, anybody and everybody who wants to weigh in? All right, then, folks, we'll take the win. It sounds like we've covered this top to bottom. Jonas, you had something to say?
Oh, I do, but it's after the segment.
Oh, sorry. Apologies.
I was going to say just real quick, the one thing that Eisner, I thought, did better than anything else, to his credit, was create the Disney bubble at Walt Disney World. And it's something that cannot be replicated. But I think it's also the very same thing that's kind of hurting Walt Disney World now. It was great during the 90s, the early 2000s. And we live in a different world now where people want to experience a whole lot more. And they keep adding into the Disney bubble a bunch of hotel rooms that now just look generic. They're priced $1,000 per room per night. And you go just outside the Disney bubble, you get a house that you can fill 8 bedrooms. You can put 20 people in the house overnight, and it's only $400, and it's totally Disney themed. It's a different world. Bob Iger hasn't dealt with that at all, and the way he has is not. I mean, he's tried to, but in a bad way by adding the DVC. And it's going to be interesting to see what Josh D'Amaro does going forward with this, because I think that I think the Disney company keeps hurting itself more than it keeps helping itself.
Maybe Eisner agrees. And put another one in the can, folks. A video of excellence has been birthed into existence, and you were there to witness it. Thank you for participating. We hope you had a good time. Folks, it's a great time anytime we get to share time with you, and we mean it. The only thing additional we ask, On the way out the door, consider clicking the like button. Share, subscribe, click it and stick it to those pesky algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. And oh, by the way, if you would be so kind, perhaps share this out on your favorite social media platforms. Folks, we've got all kinds of content coming your way. If you are interested in going even beyond all of that, well, there's a Pro Store, and you can always find those items directly below the video you're watching. The Pro Store, it's a cool place to check out for items that, well, definitely Disney and the rest are not going to sell you, but we're happy to do so. Until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.